I was shocked by what happened this month. I made a lot of mistakes or things I would give anything to be able to do over again. And that's a massive failure of oversight, of risk management, diffusion of responsibility from myself running FTX. I'm deeply sorry about what happened.
He's a pathological liar. He's a con man. Intent means nothing. Saying sorry means nothing. If you commingle, if you had no record keeping, those are against the law.
And to be fair, the crypto community just isn't buying it, and for good reason. There is no way on earth that someone that smart, because let's face it, he is smart, there is no way he could not have known what was going on behind the scenes.
Scam, Bankman, fraud. Former leader of FTX and one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world is accused of losing billions of dollars of money, inappropriately mishandling customers' funds, using customers' funds in high-risk bets and losing it all with Alameda Research, knowingly lie about the well-being of FTX to its customers, installing a backdoor software that allows for complete liquidation into private accounts, allegedly hacking his own exchange for the remaining digital assets, and so much more. When people are yelling for him to go to jail and face justice, he's out on a worldwide speaking tour, speaking at different summits, conferences, and Twitter spaces. And in this video, I combed through hours of SBF interviews to bring to you the answer to this very simple and important question. Did Sam Bankman-Fried knowingly commingle customer funds into Alameda Research and lose it all? These are video and audio clips from a wide range of resources, from Fox to CNBC to Twitter Spaces to New York Times. And in this particular clip, he's sitting in front of 1,000 people on the New York Times stage. He's laughing, he's joking, he got a round of applause. In my opinion, this was a soft interview. The interviewer didn't really even push him, but here's what he had to say.
Was there commingling of funds? That's what it appears like. It appears like there's been a genuine commingling of the funds that are of FTX customers that were not supposed to be commingled with your separate firm.
I didn't knowingly commingle funds. And again, one piece of this, you have the margin trading. You have, customers borrowing from each other. Alameda is one of those. I was frankly surprised by how big Alameda's position was, which points to another failure of oversight on my part, and failure to appoint someone to be chiefly in charge of that. But I wasn't trying to commingle funds.
In this Twitter Spaces interview, there's a whole bunch of crypto influencers on it, and I think he actually admitted that he was, in fact, commingling funds.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like
between futures and spot, where those were commingled, right?
That's right. Yeah, in general, balances were treated as effectively fungible with each other.
Okay, now wait. I just want to with that in mind, I just want to try and understand something. So I put money on. I want to deposit money into FTX. I deposit money into Silvergate Bank, which is a United States bank. I put the money into the bank. That money lands up in Alameda's bank account, right? So now you've got. Let's say I take $100. I deposit $100 into FTX. But what I actually do is I'm depositing into Silvergate's account on Alameda, and the account name is Alameda. So now Alameda has $100 of my money, and then I want to buy a Bitcoin let's say I put $20,000 in, and I want to buy a full Bitcoin. The money is. Tell me where the money is sitting now, though, because this is the part that I'm confused about.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you're confused, because it's confusing, and it confused me, and there were a lot of poor decisions made there. On our part.
Former head of Alameda Research and former romantic lover of SBF said that he did actually knowingly commingle funds.
Let me ask you this. The Wall Street Journal reported that Carolyn Ellison told Alameda staffers that Alameda used FTX client funds to cover loans that were being recalled because of the Luna-triggered credit crunch. Carolyn says that she, Sam, Gary were aware of this. How do you square that with what you originally said over Twitter, that this was an $8 billion accounting mistake?
So I'll point to two things. And first of all, obviously, I don't know what anyone else is thinking here. I can only talk about it from what I know, from what I knew. And a lot of this is reconstructing it over the last month. I have limited access to data. But what it seems like happened is in the middle of the year, a lot of, most of the borrow lending desks in the space blew out or closed down. And it seems like Alameda had, margin positions opened with them, and that it likely moved a bunch of that over to FTX this year when they shut down. And that means, I think it was over collateralized positions, but positions that involve substantial size and substantial US dollar size on the borrow side. In terms of the accounting mistake, again, looking through what happened, I think that there is a substantial discrepancy between what the financials were, what the audited financials were, the true financials, what the exchange understood. All of that was consistent, versus what the dashboards that we had displayed for Alameda's account there, which substantially under-displayed the size of that position. And so that's one of the reasons that I was surprised when we dug into everything at how big that position had become.
Now check out this interview of SBF where he is pushed to answer a question he really doesn't answer outright, and I think George Stephanopoulos did a great job of really pushing the envelope here. He even forces SBF to answer in a yes or no situation, and you gotta watch him squirm.
One of the reasons FTX went bankrupt is because FTX deposits were used to pay Alameda's creditors. Carolyn Ellison said you knew about that. Is that true?
Best I can tell, Alameda did have a big position open on FTX. That position, I think, was very over collateralized a year ago. There is a total market collapse, and specifically a large correlated collapse in its assets, over the last month, and to some extent over the last year, that threatened that position quite a bit. And I think that's, as best I understand, a lot of what happened there.
I am no cryptocurrency expert. I'm no finance expert, but I don't think you answered my question. I was asking, did you know that FTX deposits were used to pay off Alameda creditors?
I don't know of FTX deposits being used to pay off Alameda creditors. Are you... Which creditors are you referring to?
Carolyn Ellison said that you all knew that these funds were put into Alameda. They were the funds owned by your depositors.
So I can't speak for who knew what. A lot of the customers on FTX did have, borrows either, in dollars or Bitcoin or euros.
But as you know, the FTX terms of service tell the people who signed up, none of the digital assets in your account are the property of or shall be or may be loaned to FTX Trading. But you're saying that happened.
My understanding is a few things happened. The first is there is a margin trading facility on FTX by which users can lend out funds, by which other users borrow funds. And so there are explicit cases where there is, margin extended, where there is borrow lending.
If Alameda is borrowing the money that belongs to FTX depositors, that's a bright red line, isn't it?
There are a lot of cases where that's actually explicitly part of the programs and that are happening.
But not here. Here it says that the digital assets may not be loaned to FTX Trading. They can't be loaned out.
There existed a borrow lending facility on FTX. And I think that's probably covered, I don't remember exactly where, but somewhere else in the terms of service.
But they'd have to approve of that. They're saying they didn't approve of it here. They're saying you approved of it.
If you rewind to, the beginning of FTX, where, some customers were, I think in line with sort of existing relationships that they've had, at least in some cases, wiring money straight to Alameda Research in order to trade on FTX.
So you do know, and you did know, that FTX deposits were being funneled to Alameda.
So I was vaguely aware that that was how some wires were being sent in the first place.
Didn't that set off alarm bells in your head?
So there were a lot of people who were involved in that process. And look, I really deeply wish that I had taken a lot more responsibility for understanding what the details were of what was going on there. I knew that legal was involved. I knew that other groups at the company were involved, that, you know, there were agreements drafted up.
But you're ultimately responsible.
And ultimately, absolutely, like, I should have been on top of this, and I feel really, really bad and regretful that I wasn't, and a lot of people got hurt, and that's on me.
Here's what Mark Cuban has to say about that.
Yep.
He said, if I were him, I'd be afraid of going to jail for a long time.
At the end of the day, you know, it's not my call what happens, and the world will judge me as it will.
Are you worried about going to jail?
There are a lot of things that are worrying me right now. And, you know, as best as possible, I'm trying to focus on what I can do going forward to be helpful, and, you know, let whatever, you know, regulatory and legal processes are happening play out as they will.
I do want to move on, but just finally on this. This is really a yes or no question.
Yep.
Carolyn Ellison says you knew that FTX funds were being funneled to Alameda. Did you know that?
I knew that there is an open margin position there, and that involved.
I know, but that's not what I'm
borrow.
asking. If she's in court and you're in court and she's under oath and you're under oath, and you're asked, did you know that these funds were being funneled to Alameda, what is your answer?
I did not know that there is any improper use of customer funds.
Well, I definitely say he's lying there. And in this final Twitter Spaces interview, someone really gets underneath the skin of SBF, asking about Caroline Ellison.
So Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, says that you knew that FTX customer deposits were misused against your own terms of service. And then you've stated in several interviews, without much confidence, I may add, that you didn't know. And by saying that, you are basically throwing Caroline under the bus, because if you didn't know, then she must be the culprit who is legally responsible for billions of missing, right? And it's not. Caroline had a romantic relationship. So my take from that is that you had power over her and that she did what you asked her to. So my two, would anyone believe?
You're dropping out, Kim.
Yeah, why would anyone believe anything you say when you're throwing your own lover under the bus? And then I was told.
I'll let you, please, Kim, if you can get to the question so we can get through the line of questioning, if you don't mind, please.
Caroline is here and listening right now. So is there anything you would like to say to her?
I'm deeply, I mean, look, I fucked up big, but I'm pretty offended by some parts of that. Like, Caroline and I had been together for a while. I don't control her. I never did. I think it's really fucked that you would say that I would, that's how things work. And, you know, putting that aside for a second, like, I wasn't super involved in Alameda. I was not involved at all in the trading. I hadn't been for years. I was intentionally not getting involved in it because I was concerned about a conflict for interest. But, you know, as to, you know, I guess I'm not entirely sure what the question was there.
Well, that's all I have for you. I thought it was really interesting doing a lot of research into how he's answering questions, seeing him squirm, seeing him answer, and really he just doesn't want to stop talking. And I'm if I was his legal representation, I'd be like, what is he doing? You know, it's just like, it seems like a lawyer's nightmare, especially in this whole situation. But let the man talk. I think he's tying his own noose, but you know, what the heck do I know? Thanks for watching this video. If you want to continue the conversation, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of it down in the comment section below. Hit subscribe, give us a like, and one last thing, this last clip is him talking about the risk management and how he was bad at it or how he's good at it or whatever, and then a quick reaction from Jim Cramer.
You said one of your great talents in a podcast was managing risk.
That's right. And
well, it's obviously wrong.
Well, I think that there's something maybe even deeper wrong there, which was I wasn't even trying. Like, I wasn't spending any time or effort trying to manage risk on FTX, like,
And that obviously
that's
that
a
was
stunning
a mistake.
admission.
What?
That's a pretty stunning admission.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, what happened, and like if I had been spending an hour a day thinking about risk management on FTX, I don't think that would have happened.
It's not like they're like, you know what, I was sloppy and I feel bad and I'm sorry. No, you were sloppy, you didn't keep records. Illegal, all right? So if you're admitting to illegality, even though you think that you had no intent, the U.S. attorney does not care one whit about intent. What the U.S. attorney cares about is, did you break the law?